Carlo and Brendan here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for sure. And it is, of course, track by track time, making a debut on this series. It's the debut studio album by the American pop rock band Panic! At the Disco. It is a fever you can't sweat out. Released September 27th, 2005 through Decky Dance and Fueled by Ramen. Upon its release, massive commercial success, which is no surprise. That's something I already knew. Its second single in particular, I Write Sins, Not Tragedies, peaked at number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. Boosted the album sales to 1.8 million in the US by 2011, and it's the group's best-selling release. As of in late 2015, it received an RIAA double platinum certificate, but then received a quadruple platinum certification in June 2023. So this is an incredibly successful album. An album I knew one or two songs because they were singles, and I was really excited to do because I thought, well, okay, I know I'm not a fan of this band in particular, but I've never done this album before. Everybody tells me it's not a great album, but it has got catchy songs. So I like pop punk, pop rock. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find stuff on this that I like. And oh my fucking God, this, I'm gonna put it out there right now, is one of the worst things we've ever done in track by track. I was flabbergasted, so flabbergasted that about halfway through it, I messaged my wife and said, I can't believe, I'm stunned. Like, I'm genuinely stunned by how much I hate this.
Well, that was quite interesting because you did a nice little suspense thing there. You went this, and in my head I was going, is he going to say it's the greatest album I've ever listened to, or is it the worst? And you went the other way. And also it answers probably a question I did have for you, because not long ago you put out do you call them a tweet still? Whatever you did, you put out an X on X and said about, I'm doing a track by track and I'm listening to like the worst album ever. And I was trying to work out what it was, and I was thinking, oh man, what if it's like Vinster Force or Serenity or something like that? I'm gonna be well disappointed. But now I'm assuming it was this.
It was this. I am I'm genuinely stunned, folks, because I expected to like this album, like songs in this album, and this turned into one of these writing sessions where it's not so much slamming, where I just get angry at my words.
We'll see how this goes then, because I don't have anywhere near the same level of anger towards it as you do, not as an entirety anyway. So,
all right, we'll see how this matches up then. We begin with introduction, instrumental. It's an intro, the sound of a radio being tuned, old-timey like. Fine, it's an introduction.
Yeah, I didn't really have much to say. It's not really an instrumental, is it? I know they put introduction and instrumental inside. It's just a short intro with noises and shit. Like, it's nothing. So yeah, that was it. I had nothing else to write.
There you go. The only difference between Martyrdom and Suicide is press coverage. Oh, that is so pop punk now, isn't it? I'm a little taken back at first, as I figured it might have more of a spark, seeing as it's the first track in the album. It's got some energy, but fuck me, those vocals are so loud in the mix, I was struggling to hear the melodies. Bad start. I was initially like, I'm not sold, not in the slightest. I thought this would be a big hit, catchy start, and it just kind of what made me go, huh? That it?
Yeah, so I mean, because it's the first song proper in it, just kind of point out a few things, I guess, on my side of it, which I wrote down, which is like, here's the thing, right? I don't hate Panic! At the Disco. I don't listen to Panic! At the Disco, but obviously I've heard at least definitely one song off this album, the one that everyone will have heard. I quite like his voice, weirdly. I don't think he's a bad singer. And I think lyrically they write quite clever tracks and have obviously got a very good grasp of the English language. But mostly what I like about these, and when I say mostly, it's pretty much close to maybe the only thing I like about them, is that they deliver their songs like it's a theater performance, like a Broadway show, like a stage show.
Wow.
And I find that quite interesting and different. So overall, there's a lot of positives for these guys, and I can understand a little bit when I listen to them why they became big, even if it's not for me. And the main reason it's not for me is, despite thinking his vocals are pretty good and he delivers clever English words in a clever way and quite theatrically, and actually I think he's so prominent in the mix probably because it's the strongest instrument in the band. That's how I felt anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm just not a fan of the poppy, to me, quite basic, weak and diluted rhythms, the very, very mid-tempo, drums, quite unimaginative guitar notes and chords and, you know, melodies. They do things in songs then to just ramp that up a little bit further and just like, let's stick a dance breakdown in here, and then we'll have a big da 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 bit to close out the song. And you know, I kind of come out of it just going like, I quite like listening to him. Like if he just dropped all the music shit and was a poet and just read some stuff out, I'd probably quite enjoy that. But then they go and play music with it and ruin it all for me. But anyway, I don't like this song.
An incredible detail analysis there. There are some things I do agree with what you're saying. If there's biggest fault in this album overall, and this track in itself is it's notable as what you said. It's big problem instrumentally, less than vocally, more than anything else. I take massive umbrage with the term Broadway. This is a corner alley, seats 20 people, and there's graffiti on the side of the wall fucking production as far as I'm concerned. But I get what you're saying.
That's our sort of jam, right? I mean, we're more likely to be in a theater with 20 people in it and a guy drinking Stella in the back than we are to be up on Broadway.
That's true. That is true, actually. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's do London Beckon songs about money written by machine. Okay. My turn to try and be positive. This one has a more robust instrumental section and a little imagination until the chorus hits, which couldn't be blander. I don't think it could have been bland if they tried. I was like, oh my God. You can't be this talentless to write something so fucking bland as a chorus. It blew my mind. Because I was like, I thought you were supposed to be catchy. Your choruses should be the one thing you nail. And then I wrote, I have this niggling feeling that I'm not going to find much to enjoy here at all.
You still got to choose three songs, so sucks for you. I didn't write so much on this one. I thought the guitars had a little bit more of a crunch to them, and I quite like the synth line that sits behind the guitars in the verse. Didn't massively think anything of the chorus whatsoever, so much so that I didn't even mention it, other than what I'm mentioning now. I thought overall the song had a bit of a catchy flow to it. I like the vocals. I like the way they're delivered. Again, it's quite theatrical and a bit like a musical performance. So yeah, overall, not bad.
Okie dokie. Nails for breakfast, tax for snacks. Right, this seems like it might be a little more experimental, and I'm in for about 10 seconds. And then the vocals arrive. But the effects, holy shit, what are they doing? This sounds so bad, I hated every second of it. It ruined anything good about this track, which, to be fair, was very little anyway. God who chokes in these situations, running they don't know he called it. Oh, was it God who chokes in these situations, running they don't know he called it.
Yeah, I hate this one. Absolutely hate it. Instantly, as soon as because they basically auto-tune the vocals, you can hear it so clearly. It's probably done, and I even wrote down here, I'm sure it was done ironically or something like that. But either way, it sucks balls, and I don't want to listen to it. And now, no matter what's happening in the song, it's all I've got in my head, and it's a shame because there are little moments. There's a catchy little pop chorus, a little bit too heavy on the effects, but there's some all right melodies and stuff. But I just don't really care anymore. So this one can go away, never to be played again.
Here it is. Oh, nice. Okay, Camisado, I'm confused. One of the defenses I hear about this album and this band is that it's catchy tunes. It's got catchy tunes. They do catchy tunes. Where are they? Because this ain't one either. I mean, the guitar rhythms are decent here and the chorus is a little bit livelier, but that is me stretching and trying to be positive.
I think like maybe it's like your years of listening to Drone and stuff. You've like lost the ability to understand what catchy is. You're like, oh, listen to that one note every 32 minutes.
I thought Mayhem had catchy moments.
Yeah, I thought this one had quite a catchy rhythm to it. Once it kicks in, not so much at the beginning, but once it kicks in a bit, I was like, oh, the riffs are pretty good and it's quite catchy. I find it to be again, and I find this quite a lot of it. But then I also find this, and this is I'm not the world's biggest pop punk fan anyway.
Of course.
But I find it to be very, very simplistic musically. I think it's good for the radios. I'm sorry to offend everyone who listens to radios. It's not going to challenge anyone mentally, because that's me obviously clearly saying that anyone who listens to radio can't handle musical challenge, I guess.
Yes.
I do think it's got a bit of a pop punk vibe to it at times, and I like the way the vocals flow, but there are an awful lot of effects in the background of the verses, and that's very, very off-putting. So like when you've finally got something that I think is quite a catchy rhythm, then you just chuck a shitload of effects to sit in that as well, and it's like, no, like it was okay. You didn't have to do that bit as well. And yeah, so for me, I just wrote like after that, look, it's a bit of a shame really, because I like it other than those moments, and I just feel like sometimes they could maybe do with showing a little restraint.
Restraint. Good choice of words. Okay, time to dance. I appreciate the energy increase here, and I think this has some good drum parts. It's as close to catchy, in my opinion, as we've got so far, and I think the effects actually use well enough here. Added bonus, solid enough chorus. I didn't hate this one.
Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I didn't enjoy the effects on this one. I thought it had a good intro, good guitars, decent drums. It's all going well enough, and it worked quite well in the intro with the keys slash effects, because I couldn't always tell if sometimes, like, because I know, like, I've seen in videos with these guys in that he plays piano, so I'm assuming then he probably also plays keys, and I was struggling sometimes to work out if this was him playing keyboard or if it was just like them chucking like a load of programming sort of noises at it.
Yeah.
Not that it matters, but just for me, this has the same problem as the previous song in that I just would love a little restraint. I think it's got good vocals, good delivery, an interesting style and structure, and a decent chorus. And then just every now and then, it's like they just pick up a handful of effects and just throw it randomly at the song, like no thought of like where it's gonna fucking hit. And it just, for me, it adds nothing other than confusion and distraction to what would have otherwise been quite a good song.
Brilliant. Loving this analysis, man. This is fantastic. Okay, lying is the most fun a girl can have without taking her clothes off. One of the hits, I think. But I barely know this band, so I don't really recognize it. But the title does ring a bell to me. But then I think actually it's because it left no impact on me when it was doing the rounds initially. And that's because it is a boring pop punk tune with very little life outside of a chorus that you can sing along to if you really want to. But I don't think you would.
Let's get these tea hearts beating faster and faster. So testosterone boys and hard-looking girls, will you dance to this beat and hold on the cross? So testosterone boys and hard-looking girls.
Yeah, I like the lower tone and the bassier music at the beginning, not because I think it's particularly good, but just because it's a little different. There's a little bit of synth, some more restrained effects stuff, and that's all okay, and it blends into an all right sound. I find the chorus to be pretty weak, but not like horribly offensive or anything, but just again quite diluted, quite, probably could have done a bit more here, couldn't you? I like the very, very, very small messy moment of messy instrumentation as the chorus closes. It does this kind of like little, I don't know, few second blast of like, oh, look at us all hitting the instruments at the same time. Chaos, woo, metal. I don't know. And then it drops back into that sort of subdued bassy verse again. So while I liked all of those moments, I just overall, despite that all sounding like real positives, overall, I just didn't really find an awful lot in this song that would make me ever want to go back to it. I think it's like, it's okay to listen to it because it's a bit different.
Yep.
But that doesn't necessarily make it good. And I think it's really actually quite boring. And even with the added piano stuff where you can clearly hear a piano, I was just like not really feeling it. And then they do this a couple of times on the album, but not on every song, because some of the songs end and have like 30 seconds left in them, and then it starts playing either a strange kind of electro beat or something like that, which leads into the following song. And this one does that at the end. There's about 20 seconds of, I didn't know what it was at the time. It was like electro sort of music, and it was nothing to do with the song. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And then the next song started, and then I realized it was part of that. And then that will lead us into the next song.
It will indeed. And this is where I kind of just lost my shit. Intermission, in brackets, instrumental. Is it really intermission if it's over 2.5 minutes long? That's the first fucking problem I had. Then it's a mix of video game style sound with rave energy that is interrupted by the radio and a switch to an old-timey piano piece. I have never wanted a track to end as much as this one, but because of the fucking switching around constantly throughout, I realized I couldn't stop it early because they might do something different and I needed to hear what it is. I ended up wanting desperately to punch this band so hard for this fucking piece of music. Quality control, you pricks. You don't need to have this. Just get rid of it.
I didn't like it either. I remember like thinking afterwards, like, because I was okay with the song beforehand, and then it had the beginning of this song at the end of the one previously, that this one was so bad that it was leaking into the songs around it. That's what I was thinking, but I was like, oh no, it's leaked into the one previously and ruined that one too. But I was just like, I wrote down, this is probably the worst 2 minutes I'm going to have today. Same stuff that you wrote down, like in terms of what it does, some weird video game music, some sort of news sampling, radio slash broadcast, and then some piano melody. And I get that they're trying, I think, to be like quirky and weird and all that sort of stuff, but this is just nonsense, and I don't buy it.
Unfortunately, I kind of lost all sense now when it came to analysis, but it's better if you do. I simply wrote, I don't care anymore. This bland and boring band can fuck right off after that bullshit. What do you want me to say? It is pop sugar with a piss poor rock edge, as shite as everything that came before it, and now I'm actually mad.
Well, I've given them another chance, so I think like it's another stage show style track to me, which is cool. I can kind of like envision, people bouncing around the stage, like big groups of them, and sort of singing it. Not because it's a good song, but because of the way that the vocals are delivered. That's the thing with all of this. When I say this, it's not because I think, oh my god, they wrote a catchy Broadway hit.
Mhm.
It's because of the way he delivers the vocals, is how they do in theatre performances. So yeah, so I like that flow. I like the piano melody in the opening verse. I really hate the chorus in this one, though. Again, not because it's done anything wrong in comparison to ones become before, but because it's the same as the one that comes before, and it's just like it's quite bland, it's quite weak musically, and it doesn't have any kind of real catchiness to it. And I get used to. I was finding myself frustrated with that because I was enjoying the way they I thought they were quite clever lyrically and vocally with the verses, to then just hit a chorus that I was like, where did all that go? And then we go back to the verses again, which I think are pretty cool. It is nice and short though, and I do like the way they end this one, because this one also has that 30-second ending of it, which leads directly into the next song. So I quite enjoyed the way that tied together here.
I don't know what the hell's happening here, folks. You keep finding positives,
just so
and I'm hating every second.
So
Clearly.
open-minded, man.
Okay, let's see how open-minded you are with I Write Sins, Not Tragedies. Fuck. I've heard this one before. It is one I recognize. Okay, so I'm going to calm down and be a bit more objective. I like the playful melody, and when it kicks up, it is as catchy as it gets for this kind of sound. I get this one. It's easy to hear why this is a popular track. Very easy to get into, but I don't like it. I don't think it's anything special, but I completely understand why this was a big fucking hit now.
I chime in with a haven't you people ever heard of closing a damn door? No, it's much better to face these kinds of things with a sense of poison rationality. I chime in, haven't you people ever heard of?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, same as you. This is the one I know. I suppose like I did write this. That's probably being overly harsh, but my first reaction was, oh, I hate this song. But I don't know if that's just I don't know. I mean, I have heard it quite a lot.
Yep.
And it's one of those songs. It's so recognizable that you only need the first sort of like bit to happen at the beginning, and you're like, oh no, this one is. Trying to be fair, just because I don't like it, because I've heard it a lot. So look, there are things I can say about it that I think I can understand why it's very popular. I think again, similar things to what I've said on some of the songs I preferred. It's got a clever flow. The lyrics are interesting. It's quite theatrical. I think that for me, the whole, and I said it previously anyway, but the thing that stands out about this band is the intelligent lyrical ideas and the way they deliver them, because musically it isn't exactly setting anything alight at all. One of the things I really dislike about the song is it repeats the chorus a lot, like many, many, many times, and that
it's basic bitch stuff.
Yeah, it gets very repetitive and gets boring. So I can see why people like it. And while there aren't many, out of the few that I actually don't mind in this album, I think they piss all over this one. So
okay, we are so not done yet. Mental. And I constantly thank God for Esteban. Guess what? This album is far too long. Way too long. And I checked out a couple of songs ago. This song just adds to my mind being numb by how boring this album is. I get how this band became so popular, but we all knew they were a bit shit, right?
Well, I think it's got quite a nice bass line in the start and a catchy enough drum beat and melody. I quite like the tapping drumsticks sort of section. And again, same again. I like the flow of the vocals, I like the speed, I like the tempo changes and a few little bits like that. I think it's got quite an interesting structure to this one, the way it flows. It's got an acoustic driven sound, and the chorus isn't too bad either. There's quite a lot of quirky transitions across it. I did point out at this stage, and I suppose I probably have to do this just to defend myself as well, in case people are like, oh my God, Brendan's going to get a Panic at the Disco tattoo. When I'm saying all this stuff is like, I am trying to be like super fair with it, because I don't love it. I don't like it. And I'll probably never, ever listen to it again. But it's like, hey, while I'm listening to it, yeah, okay, I can see some things in this that I can see why people like it. It's also, out of all the songs on the album, it's got some of the better lead guitar moments on the song as it gets to its end. Not throughout the rest of the song, but as it's getting to its end, they do some stuff with the lead guitar for the first time ever that isn't just the same old chords.
Folks, I normally follow suit. Analysis, get the best of everything possible. Try and find parts you like. I just gave up with this record. And we continue with there's a good reason these tables are numbered, honey. You just haven't thought of it yet. Fuck these titles too. I've waited now to mention it. It's not funny. It's not clever. You just end up making me more mad. I hate this album. It might be one of the worst examples of this music I've ever heard. This is another shite one that bores me senseless. I know I'm doing a horrible job of talking about the music, but I just don't want to. This is how bad it was for me. I just didn't want to. I hate it. I fucking hate it. And I was having such a miserable time that I just didn't want to give them the energy that takes me to write, oh, well, I like this guitar part. I like this drum part. I like this and so on, because I just didn't.
You'll have to go and see them live to see if it changes your mind.
They're long gone, aren't they?
I don't know. Maybe they'll come
I'm
back.
sure they're long gone.
Do a 20-year reunion of this album, and you can go and watch it played live.
Yeah.
This is one of the songs I prefer on the album. I think, like, I'm not going to say anything that I haven't said before. And again, when I say prefer, it doesn't mean like, oh wow, this is music that's changed my life. I just think like, yeah, okay, I can see why people like this, even if it's not my style. It's all the same reasons. Actually, they probably push it a little bit harder here with that whole theatrical thing. You know, that whole sort of on-stage performer of vocals, like you're addressing an audience like in front of you live, rather than, I don't know, like, and you're trying to tell a story. And I think that's where I'm getting the theatrical sort of side of it. I 100% agree with you though with what you said at the beginning. Like, what the fuck is with these names? I don't understand them, because I kept trying to like use the name to see if I could figure out something in the song that was to it. But they seemed, yeah, just seemed to be like somebody's like I don't know, like asked AI to give them like 12 random words and just put it as a sentence, you know. So yeah, I didn't get that at all. But in terms of that whole theatrical side of things, in this song, it gets reinforced for me a lot more than in any of the other ones, and that's purely because near midsection, mid to end of the song, they bring in some brass instruments, some piano, and some quite jazzy sounding drums. And I think that sort of brass section with the theatrical delivery of the performances just again made me think like I was, I don't know, watching not something as deep as like Phantom of the Opera, but maybe something like Matilda, you know. So yeah, I found it quite interesting to listen to, a little different to some of the songs that came before.
I don't think I've ever been more disappointed in you.
I can't believe that you had one instrumental and you just decided to not bother with the rest of the album.
At least I listened to it. Well, I also quickly Googled the State of Panic at the Disco. So several lineup changes following 2004. They then operated as a solo project for frontman, vocalist, Brendan Urie from 2015 until 2023, where they stopped in 2023.
So
a solo project.
About this band, I just assumed they were still around, to be honest. So.
Okay, and we end with Bill God, then we'll talk. Oh, thank fuck, it's the last one. So I'm going to be nice. It's got instruments being played, and it has got vocals. Bravo. That's it. Now, I'm joking. Okay,